ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਨਮਸਕਾਰ, ਆਦਾਬ। ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਿਦੇਸ਼ਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਸੀ ਟੀਵੀ ਦੇਖਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ-ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਅਜੇ ਅਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਵੈਲਬੀਂਗ ਮੈਟਰਸ। ਅਸੀਂ ਸਭ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਬੰਦਾ ਹੀ ਬੰਦੇ ਦਾ ਦਾਰੂ ਹੈ। ਸੁੱਖ ਦਾ ਵੇਲਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਗਮ ਦੀ ਘੜੀ ਹੋਵੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦੀ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਲੋੜ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਰਿਸ਼ਤਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਿਆਰ, ਮੁਹੱਬਤ ਅਤੇ ਖਲੂਸ ਨੂੰ ਜੇਕਰ ਵਧਾਇਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਹੁਸਨ ਬਣਦਾ ਹੈ। ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਕੁ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਅੰਦਾਜ਼ਾ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਤੋਂ ਲਗਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇ ਦੂਜਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਕੁ ਪ੍ਰੇਮਪੂਰਵਕ, ਸਹਿਜ ਅਤੇ ਮਿੱਠੇ ਹਨ। ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇ ਦੋ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਇੱਕ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਨਮ ਤੋਂ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਦੂਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਕਸਪੈਕਟੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵਧਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਰਾਰ ਅਤੇ ਖਟਾਸ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋਣੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਅਲੱਗ-ਅਲੱਗ ਪਹਿਲੂਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਹਨ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮੀਤੂ। ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਮਾਹਿਰ ਤੇ ਐਕਸਪਰਟ ਸਾਈਕੋਥੈਰੇਪਿਸਟ ਹਨ, ਟੀਚਰ ਆਫ ਯੋਗਾ ਐਂਡ ਮੈਡੀਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਐਂਡ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਿੰਗ ਆਫ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ, we welcome you in our show, Wellbeing Matters, once again.
Thank you for having me and talking about this very important subject matter of relationships and love.
ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪਸ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਮਝੀਏ ਤਾਂ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਹੋਣ। ਓਕੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮੀਤੂ, ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ 'ਤੇ, ਮੈਰਿਜ 'ਤੇ, ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਅਹਿਮੀਅਤ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਕਈ ਲੋਕ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੀ ਕਮੀ ਨੂੰ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਵਿੱਚ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਕਾਰਨ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਠੀਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ? I mean to say, some people feel loveless in their relationships. Why it is so and how we can deal with that?
Yes. So the very important thing to understand that there's two dimensions in every relationship. The first dimension and first aspect of a relationship is the inner relationship, the relationship that we have with ourselves. And the second part of a relationship is the outer relationship, the relationship that we have with the other person. What often ends up happening is that we focus so much on the external and outer relationship that we don't actually take time to cultivate the inner relationship. It is in cultivating the inner relationship that we understand what true intimacy is. And so when you start to work on the inner relationship, when you start to learn how to really bring love, care, and compassion to yourself, where you discover yourself as your beloved, then you have built a strong foundation to allow for the external relationship to flower. But if there is a lack of inner intimacy, a lack of cultivating a positive inner relationship, then our foundation for the external relationship is weakened, and hence we feel alone, lonely, and encounter relationship challenges.
So when you say inner relationship, what it means, inner relationships?
So inner relationship has to do with how our inner masculine is dealing with our inner feminine. Within each of us, there's two polarities, the masculine and the feminine. In the inner relationship, it is our ability to be present to and respond, which is the masculine, to our feminine needs, which is the need to feel loved, our emotional needs, what we need to do to take care of ourselves to feel safe and nurtured. And so in the relationship, it is a consistent prioritization of self-love, of self-care. The inner relationship requires one to know how to take care of our core needs so that we can be in life and feel that we are fulfilled, we are taken care of, and we feel happy. In inner relationship, we're discovering who we are and how to be ourselves. And once we cultivate that inner masculine, which is the part of us that can act and serve our inner feminine, which are our emotional needs, what we need to feel whole and complete, then we experience that inner union within. And from that inner union of the masculine and feminine, we can then mirror that and have that in our external relationships.
ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮੀਤੂ, ਕਦੀ-ਕਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਾਰਟਨਰ 'ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਡਿਪੈਂਡ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਨਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹਾਸਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ, ਆਪਣੇ ਲਵਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਾਸਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹਦੀ ਕੀ ਵਜ੍ਹਾ ਹੈ? ਵਾਈ ਇਟ ਇਜ਼ ਸੋ? sometimes we are so into our partner that we are ready to do anything for him or her. Why it is so?
Yes. So understand that that relationship where we depend upon our partner to fulfill our unmet emotional needs, i.e., I need you to make me feel loved, I need you to make me feel worthy and valuable. Without you, I am nobody. When we depend on our partner to fulfill the emotional need that we should be responsible for, we then create a very strong attachment to them. And that is called a co-independence or codependency relationship. Now, what is the harm of that? In a codependency relationship, you're holding on to your partner so tightly that you're willing to put up with negative treatment, you're willing to compromise and give parts of yourself away just so that you can secure his or her love, just so that you will not lose his or her ability to take care of your emotional needs. Now, the problem is that in such situations, our partner may be asking us to compromise parts of ourselves. They may be even showing negative treatment towards us. But we will endure that abuse because we're afraid to let the love that they're giving us go. So, what we have to understand is that you need to come to a place where you begin to recognize that you are the source of your love and that you have it within you to make yourself feel valuable, worthy, loved, and secure. And once you can have that sense of independence and empowerment, then you can be in a relationship. And if it's not serving you, and if it's not honoring you, you're willing to speak up for your needs or let that person go because you're no longer afraid of losing them.
ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿੱਤੂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਰੋ, ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨਾਲ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਫਿਰ ਹੀ ਉਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ। ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਆਉਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੁਹੱਬਤ ਕਰਨੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿੱਤੂ, our next question is, in a balanced relationship, it is very important to adapt. And there is a very thin line between adaptability and compromise. How we can balance these two things?
That's an excellent question. The question of what is adaptability and what is compromise? So understand that in adaptability, the request that your partner has of you, what they want from you, always has to come from a place of love. And what that means is that your change and your adjustment and your adaptability contributes to greater harmony, peace, and joy within yourself, within the relationship, and in the other partner. So in adaptability, the partner's request is not coming from ego, insecurity, or fear, but it's coming from really wanting to consider the other partner's well-being. Now, in compromise, what ends up happening is that we are actually letting go of parts of ourselves, core needs that we need to fulfill in order to feel whole, and our authentic self is being asked to let go of. In compromise, when we give up these parts of ourselves, it is not creating harmony, peace, or well-being in ourselves or in the relationship. It's actually the opposite. So as where adaptability fosters greater self-love and love in the relationship, compromise can lead to resentment, losing the sense of who we are, and does not foster greater love and harmony.
ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮੀਤੂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਰਹੇਗੀ। ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ। ब्रेक तो बाद ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਅਸੀਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿੱਤੂ ਨੂੰ ਅਗਲਾ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿੱਤੂ, ਕੁਝ ਲੋਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਐਕਸਪੈਕਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਔਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਡਿਮਾਂਡਿੰਗ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਡਿਮਾਂਡਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਫੁੱਲਫਿਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ? ਆਈ ਮੀਨ ਸਮ ਪੀਪਲ ਆਰ ਵੈਰੀ ਡਿਮਾਂਡਿੰਗ ਇਨ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਐਂਡ ਦੇ ਹੈਵ ਹਾਈ ਐਕਸਪੈਕਟੇਸ਼ਨਸ, ਸੋ how you see that?
Yes. So when we look at the word demand, a way in which somebody is demanding has to do with how they're asking for their requests. When we're demanding, we are short-sighted. We are not in tune to the other partner and how they're feeling about our requests. In demands, it's mostly about us, and there's no space to actually listen to how the partner feels about what we're asking for. So we want to transform demand into invitations. Invitation is when you ask your partner for something that you need, but you're willing to have empathy, to understand how do they feel about what I'm asking for, and you're willing to have a conversation to understand if that need that you're asking for is met with understanding or with resentment and hurt, and then have a conversation about it. With invitations, the approach is much more compassionate and you're willing to hear the other person. But with demands, you don't really care about how the other person thinks. And when you're demanding of your partner, that can create in them more resentment, more anger, more buildup, or even a sense of feeling controlled, not heard or understood.
ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਸਾ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਮਸਲਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਕਾਮਨ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਇਸ ਮਸਲੇ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਕੋਈ ਕਾਮਨ ਪੈਟਰਨ ਹੈ is there any common pattern for this? I mean, when people in relationship, they hurt each other, they yell, they ignore. So is there any particular kind of pattern in this kind of behavior?
Right. So the question is, what is the core reason as to why we get mad at each other, why we yell at each other, why is there so many intense fights? There's two things to understand. The word is trigger and projections. Oftentimes, we have unhealed parts of ourselves. We have anger that's been sitting there for years. Maybe we have some woundings where we weren't taken care of and we feel lonely, like we're going to be rejected, for example. When there's unhealed parts of our emotions, traumas, then when our partner is reacting in a certain way, we may end up interpreting their response as, you're trying to hurt me. The trigger happens when you see the person's behavior and link it to something that's happened in the past. And what then ends up happening is projection. Projection is when we don't respond to the partner in the reality of what they're actually doing. We respond to the partner from our emotional woundings and our emotional anger and what isn't really true about the situation. So the best thing to understand is that if you have an explosive reaction towards your partner and you're super angry, take time to pause. Take time to step away and then ask yourself, why did I have such a strong reaction? Why was I so hurt? Go within and discover, is it really about my partner, or is it something that he reminded me of the past that I haven't yet healed? And when you start to heal the past, when you start to let go of all those emotions that are buried inside of you, then when you approach your partner, you won't be triggered anymore. He or she may behave in a certain way, but you have enough clarity to see and understand the truth of the situation, that perhaps they weren't trying to hurt me, perhaps they were irritated about the day, and then they expressed this kind of negative tone towards me, and then you can respond with compassion and greater understanding.
That was a wonderful answer. That was really good.
Thank you.
So our next question is, what is deep intimacy? Deep intimacy ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ?
Yes. So true intimacy on the deepest level is our ability to see. To be able to truly see what is in front of you requires us to be fully present in the moment. To be present in the moment requires us to have a mind that is still and a heart that is open. And when you're present and in the moment, then you can start to feel that the other thing is a part of yourself and you are a part of something else. True intimacy is about a sense of belonging and a sense of connection. And when you start to become more and more present in this moment, letting go of the busyness of the mind and just really seeing life for what it is, then you experience what is called the greatest intimacy, which is a sense of being connected to all of life. And in that great intimacy is great joy and great love. And when you bring that kind of intimacy to your partner, you feel that, yes, they're a part of me, and so is everything else. Now, being a part of me doesn't mean that you've lost your sense of self, who you are. You being a part of me means that you've recognized that there's a thread of connection. Behind the mind and the thoughts, there's one love, one presence that we're all part of. And that is the greatest joy of true intimacy.
Ego, anger, and arguments. These are very common in relationships. How to handle this? And how we can handle?
Right. A very good question, because I think we all are in situations where sometimes we get so heated in conflicts that we can't step away. We're like, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, why did you do this? And we end up in this cycle of just going back and forth in this loop. And so what we really need to understand is that when that loop happens, what's happening is that our adrenaline, our fight and flight and intense emotions are so strong that they flood our brain and we can no longer think and see and respond clearly. We're in this fight or fight and survival mode with our partner. And the best thing to do in that moment is actually to step away. To step away and gather yourself. To take the time you need to cool down, to let the adrenaline calm down, and then to re-engage with your partner from a higher perspective. You must learn to pull yourself up into recommitting to the truth as to why you are together. When both partners can commit to value systems of love, compassion, patience, understanding, kindness, and keep coming back to those core values and bring that in the conversation, then there's hope for that conflict to resolve in peace. But when we let go of these core values of love and harmony, and prioritize our anger and our frustration first, then we end up in this endless cycle of fighting and arguing and getting mad at each other. And often what happens is that one partner is not fighting about the same thing anymore. Nobody's understanding each other, they're talking over each other, and they've lost the actual reason as to why they were fighting.
These are the uncontrolled negative emotions, and we should be aware of this.
Absolutely.
ਮਿਲਦੇ ਆ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਕਮਰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ। ਵੈਲਕਮ ਬੈਕ। ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਜਾਰੀ ਹੈ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿਤੂ ਨਾਲ ਅਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਵੀ ਚਰਚਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹਾਂਗੇ। ਅਗਲਾ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿਤੂ ਨੂੰ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿਤੂ, ਇਨ ਦਿਸ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਆਫ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਹਸਬੈਂਡ ਵਾਈਫ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਰਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਝਗੜੇ ਨੇ, ਘਰੇਲੂ ਮਸਲੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਵੱਧ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਕਾਰਨ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਥੋੜੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਦਿਓ।
Very good question. So why are couples fighting more? Because they're spending more time together because of COVID? Very good question. What I would have to say to that is that because they're together, that's not the cause of their fights. The cause of their fights is that they have unresolved conflicts that they have been avoiding for a long time. And because now they cannot avoid each other because of COVID, they have to face those conflicts and they cannot avoid it. I would say that this is a great opportunity. Being stuck with each other is a great opportunity to explore and examine what parts of me are in conflict with what parts of you. And then how can we be aware of those conflicts and then work on it? If you're in a relationship, a priority should be to work on the relationship, to grow and evolve together so there's more peace and harmony between the both of you. And so during this COVID time, as you're with your partner, make a commitment to explore what are the challenges in your conversations and communication, and use this opportunity to grow and heal the relationship. And that is truly why couples are fighting more. Now, the question of, taking a break from each other, of course that is important. Your time to yourself and the space that many of us are looking for from our partners is the time and space we need to cultivate our own inner relationship. So your need for space is not to avoid your partner or avoid conflicts. Your need for space is to take time to develop your own inner relationship, to feed yourself, your mind, your body, and soul, so that when you re-enter your relationship, you feel strong, you feel whole, you feel loved, and you feel nurtured. Thereby, you can give more and offer more to your partner.
Dr. Mitu, work-life balance is very important. Especially in matrimonial and marriage, it's very important. And in this busy world, how we can cope up with this?
I love that question. The question is, we are so busy, how can we actually take time to spend quality time with our partner? So when we ask that question, sometimes we think that busyness is not a choice, that we have to be busy because we have all these liabilities. But the truth is that even though we have liabilities, most of us are addicted to busyness. Actually, people are trying to avoid not being busy. So they will put kids in extracurricular activities that are really not necessary. Yes, some activities are necessary, but how much is overdoing it? Partners may spend time online or watching certain things just to avoid not being busy. So when we understand that we have a choice and we can start to recognize that perhaps simplicity is wealth, that perhaps contentment is wealth, that perhaps having time to just be with your partner, to be in this moment, is what can create a sense of enrichment and well-being for you. The culture of today is a culture of hunger. We're all chasing for more, more, more. And we have a fear that if I slow down and take time for myself and time for my relationship, that I'm not putting my attention to work, and therefore, what if I cannot survive? What if I don't make that money? What if I don't get that job success? But the truth is that when we are in balance, mind, body, and spirit, we will attract more opportunities and more abundance in our lives.
Breakups are very common. What is the reason behind breakups, especially when it comes to South Asian communities? What do you think?
So the reason why we have breakups is true amongst all communities. There's always a core reason. And the core reason is unfulfilled needs. Behind every fight, behind every anger, behind every breakup is emotional needs that have not been met. Psychological needs, physical needs, and spiritual needs that have not been met. These needs are needs such as need for respect, integrity, understanding, love, compassion, space, forgiveness, creativity, self-expression. They're core human needs. Now, we have a choice. When our emotional needs are not met, either we can approach the unmet need by working with our partner to teach them how we need to have that need met, or for some situations, the partner is not willing or capable of meeting those basic needs that we have, right? And so when that happens, we're no longer being satisfied or fulfilled with that partnership, and that may lead to a breakup. Also understand that we're always evolving and growing as human beings. And so that relationship may have served a purpose where you grew and you developed and you may become a new person now. And if that partner is not able to fulfill, to recognize your new self and really support you in who you are, that can also lead to a breakup. And of course, the first and the best thing is try to work on it together, right? But if that's something that the partner is not able to do, that is often what leads to a breakup.
Yes. Divorces, breakups, ਤਲਾਕ ਇਹ ਪੂਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਨ ਪਰ ਵੈਸਟਰਨ ਵਰਲਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ it's not a big deal. But when it comes to South Asian communities, it's a big stigma. So what do you have to say on this? And especially when it comes to South Asian women, people target them. So what advice you would like to give to them?
So why is it that breakups and divorces are such a stigma and there's so much criticism around this, especially for women? So traditionally, and in many societies, a lot of value is placed on marriage. And the value I'm talking about is that my worth, my value, the sense of identity of who I am is based upon my marriage partner. So much of our self-identity is attached to another partner, a marriage partner. So that if that marriage dissolves, if that marriage fails, then we feel like a failure. But what's happening now in the new generations and those that are finding their true voice is that they're beginning to recognize that my worth, my value, my well-being, how enough I am does not depend on anything external or a marriage partner. I am enough as I am because I exist. And women are beginning to find their voice, are beginning to discover their worth and their value within themselves. And so now if the breakup happens with such a woman, she may not feel like she's a failure per se. She may not feel like my worth and value is gone. Rather, she can understand the lessons that were learned in that relationship, but still feel whole and complete in herself. And from that kind of understanding, we will then have less stigma and judgment about breakups and divorces.
ਗੱਲਾਂ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਰਹਿਣਗੀਆਂ, ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਿੱਕੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿੱਤੂ, ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ 'ਤੇ ਆਏ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਨੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਅਤੇ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਨਲਾਈਟਨ ਕੀਤਾ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ ਮਚ।
Thank you.
ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਿਆਰ ਮੁਹੱਬਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਬੇਹਾਲ ਹੈ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿੱਤੂ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਅੱਜ ਇਹੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕੀਤੇ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪਰੇਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਮਾਨਸਿਕ ਰੋਗ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਮਿੱਤੂ ਜੀ ਨਾਲ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ, ਇਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਨਗੇ। ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖੋ, ਚੰਗੀ ਸਿਹਤ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੀ ਨੀਂਹ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਆਪਣਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖੋ, ਖੁਸ਼ ਰਹੋ, ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਵੈਲਬੀਂਗ ਮੈਟਰਸ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਸੀ ਟੀਵੀ 'ਤੇ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।